Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good
Mr.
morning,
Chair.
everyone here this morning on this 22nd of February. Everyone's had an opportunity to look at the county board minutes. Is there a motion to approve
So
them?
moved, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, a second by Commissioner Winchester to approve the county board minutes. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion prevails. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Do we have anything else, Beth, this morning that we know of?
Mr. Chair, I have no changes this morning.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wilson, second by Commissioner Winchester. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. First on the agenda, employee recognition. Mr. LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Health and Human Services.
Morning,
Mr.
Brad.
Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm going to ask Jeff Bowman to come up with his two new employees. So we have two new social workers who are going to be introduced to the board this morning. So maybe stand a little closer to this table so when they ask you those difficult questions that everybody in the virtual world can hear you, so.
Yes, good morning.
Welcome.
Morning.
We've had a lot of new staff here recently in our team, and two of the three are able to make it. The other one is in the process of relocating and didn't want to drive in from Blaine this morning, so understandable. So we have Julie Newman. She is working in the adult mental health team, as well as working with individuals on the CADI waiver. And Sarah Rushlow, who is working with DD, developmental delayed individuals, as well as those that are served on the CADI waiver as well. Sarah started on the 24th of January, so 3-ish weeks in, almost a month, and Julie on the 3rd, right after the new year. So we are very excited to have them be a part of our team. They've been doing very, very well. All feedback has been very positive.
Great.
Well, welcome.
Welcome. It's good to have you here this morning.
I'm sure you're going to enjoy living in Morrison County.
Do you have any questions for the board?
Yes.
I don't think so.
That's why we put you right up close by the microphone.
We appreciate you taking out of the time out of your day this morning here. We know you guys have big workloads, but letting us put the face with the positions that are filled, and it's important for us as board members to be able to connect with all the employees here too. So thank you for doing that.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I up again?
I think I can handle it.
Okay, you
Brad.
can
Thank
handle
you.
this.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'd like to bring Cindy Nienaber up here this morning, if you have a minute.
With that surprised look on her face.
She thinks she's here for a different reason. She actually came on Tuesday at planning when she was supposed to be here today. But, so anyway, I'll let Matt take
So
over.
Cindy thought she was coming here today to give another COVID report.
I'm ready.
I know.
Sure you are.
And that's the case, she's always ready. And so this morning, we're gonna take just a minute to recognize Cindy and her contributions to the county and her efforts. Obviously a member of our Public Health Department and Health and Human Services under the direction and guidance of Brad. But over the last 3 years now, we've had a member of our staff that has kept the county informed and educated on COVID-19. And not only how does it impact the communities, but how do we as a county respond to it? And as we look at our imperatives of collaboration and communication, so many folks around the country that I've been associated with have really reached critical mass, and they've become complacent on this matter. Cindy has not. And I've been impressed from day one. Her nose has been down. She's been focused at this effort. She is absolutely 100% dedicated and believes that we can come out on top of this pandemic. I am grateful and thankful for her efforts, all that she has provided the county, helping to keep us informed and to make better decisions. So today, I just wanted to take a couple minutes and recognize Cindy for those efforts. They haven't gone unnoticed, and we thank you for all that you do and the work that you've done for the county and the citizens of Morrison County. As it reads, this certificate is awarded to Cindy Nienaber in recognition of your contributions assisting Morrison County in providing cost-effective, high-quality services in a friendly and respectful manner. Thank you for all that you do for making Morrison County a place that our residents are proud to call home. Awarded the 22nd of February. Thank you, Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you for the support of the board, administration, and Brad. This is a team effort. We can't do this alone, so thank you.
And just a couple more things I wanted to point out, and that was over the last 2 years only. I know it feels like 3, Matt, but it's 2 years. You know, she went above and beyond in trying to create the dashboard that is on the website, and it outpaced the jail website, or the jail hits to our website.
hard to
So
beat,
that's
Cindy.
awesome.
Better than the inmates.
And then she has twice a week sent updates to the schools on our COVID rates, and has been very responsive when they ask questions regarding those school emails. And she really has taken that responsibility on, and if she's gone, it doesn't necessarily get done. But those two in particular have been on her shoulders, and she has done it with a smile and with gratitude, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much, Cindy.
Gentlemen, you comments?
You know, Mr. Chair, based upon what Brad just said, and she continues to do her job, because COVID-19 is not just her job. She continues to do her job, so it's very impressive. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.
Cindy. Brad, can you escort Cindy on up here? We'll get a photo real quick. Gentlemen, you want to slide in? I can stand.
Sure, do you want to be in
Make
it?
fun of me
No,
again.
Actually, Matt, you should hand her this.
Oh, my, all the pictures on the paper. What pictures did you take today, Lemire?
We can stand behind you.
You guys get more pictures? That's right. We got more pictures.
Put your,
Move a little bit
Yeah,
so it's good.
put your hands up on top like this.
Hold that other side.
Okay,
Randy, would you kind of
Center
hold
now,
down
we
like
got a
this?
shift.
shift.
There you go.
Brad, one more step.
You want me to go
There
this
you
way?
go, perfect. No, just upright. Upright is good. All right, guys, ready? 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna take a couple more for good measure.
Looks like you-
Okay, I think I got it.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I
it.
figured you got the tall people when you went up like
Oh,
that.
just in case.
Oh, jeez.
Mr. Chair, that concludes employee recognition.
So we will move to the Health and Human Services report. Brad?
Good morning again, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Morning, Brad.
I have to get to the right page now. I believe the first thing on my agenda is a contract for collaborative intensive bridging services with Greater Minnesota Family Services. This is part of our ongoing efforts with a grant through Sourcewell to provide intensive bridging services to those who are experiencing mental health challenges for kids under the age of 18. And this is a more intensive service than our regular in-home or mental health services that we provide. And so we were fortunate enough to find a vendor who's willing to develop these intensive services. And so this is between our agency in Greater Minnesota, not to exceed $60,000. And Brian has reviewed this contract and approved its form and content.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion by Commissioner Lemire
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Jelinski to approve this contract. Any further discussion, gentlemen?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jelinski.
Brad, briefly, can you explain what this really means? Is this something that obviously goes over and above what is provided, if you will, by the county, by Morrison County? Is this something that where I a client, if you will, could call somebody, or how does this really work?
So those that access the services are receiving services through our children's mental health case managers. And so it is kind of, if you might recall the scale that Melanie provides when she does her mental health updates, you know, from outpatient all the way to residential treatment. This service is before residential treatment, so it's about 3/4 of the way down our scale in terms of the intensity of services. So they do have to be involved in case management with our county, and we have probably worked with them and provided other less intensive services throughout our involvement. And so now we're looking at trying to reduce that residential treatment cost by using this service.
So is most of this done by the telephone, or is there actually a worker that meets with the client in regards to this contract?
There will be a worker assigned who is having face-to-face contact with the family and the child.
Good enough. Thank you very much.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion prevails.
Thank you. The next item I have is to appoint Miranda Pogriba to our Public Health Advisory Committee. She is representing District 3, who had a representative that moved out of District 3. She is an employee of the Royalton School District.
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wincher, a second by Commissioner Lemire to approve of this member to the Health Advisory Board. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion prevails.
Thank you. The next item is to approve a tobacco license renewal for Northern Tier Retail and a new owner license for Bear Track Store and Hardware.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wilson, a second by Commissioner Jelinski to approve these licenses. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion prevails.
And then I believe the last thing is to approve 2 seasonal establishment, one being a renewal and one being a food stand license, and a new establishment owner for Pat's Bar and Grill and Piers.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wilson, a second by Commissioner Wincher to approve these licenses. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion prevails.
That's all I have this morning.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Brad. Next on the agenda, Sheriff's Report. Sheriff Larson, good morning.
Good morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Sheriff.
So the first thing, just looking for approval to move forward with the Advanced Correctional Healthcare Contract. This will take effect May 15th, 2022, and run to the end of the year. We did submit our termination letter to Men Correctional Services. So we'll continue our services with men until we go in effect with Advanced Correctional Healthcare on May 15th. So I did we pushed this off to our county attorney for review, and also with Steve Messerschmidt with the auditor's office. So I'm just looking for approval to accept this contract, get a signature from our board chair, as well as our county administrator, to move forward with the contract.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Oh, whatever.
However you want to make it work.
So we got a motion by Commissioner Lemire and a second by Commissioner Jelinski to approve this contract going forward. For the record, we had extensive discussion about this at the planning session. I know Commissioner Winchers also had the opportunity to have discussion with Sheriff Larson and be able to brief the documents that support this. At this time, I want to give the opportunity for any further discussion. Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I know the reason for this, but maybe for the public, if you give a short version why we're doing this here?
Sure. So we have a contract with Men's Services. The contract's not really being followed at this point. We pay for services Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week. We're not getting that. Right now, we're getting sporadic timeframes where they'll show up. Sometimes it's twice a week, but then it's a half a day. So everything's kind of getting behind. And our first and foremost need in our jails to take care of our inmates and our staff. And right now, our inmates aren't being taken care of the way they should be. This has been addressed. We're getting the best services we can from them at this point, but it doesn't meet our criteria. So,
Thank you for that.
you bet.
Commissioner Lemire.
If you could just give a quick example of what they provide. Like if you have a inmate that needs what?
So, yeah, so in general, basically, our inmates, just like us, we have medical needs. And at the end of the day, sometimes correctional officers can't meet those needs. It has to be medical care that needs to be provided. So whether it's a stub toe, whether it's medications, their day-to-day medications, a lot of inmates, just like citizens, are required to take medications. That can't be prescribed by any of us, by any of our correctional staff. We have to have a director from the provider that we use, a doctor, prescribe those medications. So it's required, but per DOC, that we have medical staff that are taking care of our inmates and take care of their mental health services as well. And that's why we want to make sure that they're getting the services that we're signed up to give.
And if I could follow up.
Commissioner Lemire.
I remember one time we talked about, it wasn't methadone, it was a different prescription that we'd give to those that were addicted to narcotics.
Oxycodone. I'm sorry.
Oxycodone.
I'm sorry, no.
Narcan.
No,
Suboxone.
Suboxone, there you go. Do these individuals help out with that too?
They do, yes. That's a good question that was brought up when we met with their staff, and we asked if they would provide those same services, and they will.
Awesome, thank you.
You bet.
Further discussion? Further discussion? So, gentlemen, we also recognize the fact that this contract does have fiscal implications, which means this will be a roll call vote. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher. Aye. Commissioner Jelinski. And the chair votes aye. All, this board voting unanimously, this is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. For, your monthly report?
Yep, I'll just kind of breeze through this fairly quick. So just to give everyone an update, we continue to be active in our communities. This was a request put out by a guardian. They said that this gentleman was going to be celebrating his 8th birthday, and he was big time into cops and into firemen. So they just requested that we just do a quick presence and show up. So our deputy took time out of his day, showed up, made this gentleman's day, 8-year-old birthday held at the held in Swanville, and surprised this child and put a smile on his face. That's what it's all about, just doing the little things in life that matter the most. Continuing on for the month of January, we'll move to our criminal complaints to the pie chart. Just to highlight a couple things you'll see in the obstruct correspondence, which is going to be the maroon pie shape. We had 22 complaints, and we pushed out a news release that was on January 31st where we had a bunch of mail that was stolen and taken in the Cushing area, and it was discarded at the Crowing Power substation located just east of town on Highway 27. So that's kind of the biggest, that's what we dealt with the most for the month of January. And then we had some thefts, which would be the left blue pie chart. 8 were theft from person, couple gas drive-offs, and a couple false representation. If we move forward to our traffic complaints, you'll notice that we had 84 verbal warnings, 16 written warnings, and 7 speeds. And then our 2-year comparison, it's down a little bit. Our traffic citations were down. A lot of that has to do with weather and road conditions. And our call for services overall was down a little bit. So that affected the total complaints, criminal complaints, non-criminal complaints. You'll see civil process, we're up a little bit. Last year we were down because of dealing with COVID. Our drug investigations were down a hair just because we had one guy out on COVID. And then our total inmates, you'll notice, went up. And again, that's because of dealing with COVID last year. So we're pretty much restricted as to who we're bringing in. I'll just highlight on the next page our out-of-county inmates. We had 8, and the revenue collected was $5,335. So even though it's not a large number, we're still active. We're still trying to bring in as much revenue as we can, which is good for the county. Our total inmates on the next page, if you include out-of-county inmates, we averaged 36. And with that, I'll see if there's any questions from the board.
Comments, gentlemen? Questions for Sheriff Larson this morning?
Like a normal month.
Sheriff, thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Good day, Sheriff. Thank you.
You too.
Gentlemen, on the agenda is a report from Extension that's been provided to you as part of your packet. We have the auditor's report next on the agenda. Should we take a quick 4 or 5 minute break here to allow staff to? We're moving along here this morning, so.
Why wouldn't we?
Are you guys all right with that?
Yep, that's fine,
We'll take 5.
because the auditor's not here.
Yeah, but doesn't she have an extension?
And we think an extension is coming?
We're thinking extension is not coming.
Is not coming.
So
Okay, that's
so I just mentioned that, so everybody
Yeah.
can review that on your own.
Be the one for
Chelsea gets down here.
Yeah.
emergency management?
Matt's gonna give her a call.
That's not her?
I was thinking she was stuck in the snowbank, but I already saw her this morning.
No, she's here.
Here.
Are you ready? Okay. Yeah, they're ready for you. We're taking a 5-minute recess and then you're up.
No, I knew, and I,
Did you know them all?
yeah.
I figured.
I-
I figured you would. Everybody's trying to help out everybody today.
I know, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think so, to the best of my knowledge. Yes, I think that's correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Oh, Becky, they approved your report, or? Sorry, yeah, Lane just said that there was a report in the packet, and nobody had any questions. All right. Easy peasy. You're welcome.
Pretty
Yes.
Does a commissioner have to live in the county, or can they live in the
No,
city?
they have to live in their own district.
Oh, you do, okay, kinda like the city council.
Yeah, yeah, we have to live in our district.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, I wondered how strict they were on that.
no, they're real strict, yeah. That's what we were worried about a little bit with redistricting, that somebody didn't end up getting pushed out because of that.
Oh,
Yeah, so, and I don't think that's gonna happen, but I do think everybody's gonna run. I think all 5 of us are gonna have to run, so. I was gonna run and so is Greg anyway, so the rest of them are having to though. Whatever. Yeah, we do have to live, no, we have to live in our district.
yeah, how can you represent your neighbors if you
Yeah,
don't live?
yeah,
And I think those two are in the restroom.
Well, I hope I'm not going too fast for everybody.
No.
This give me the opportunity. So you only had one for one other
Where'd you go, Randy?
certificate, and that was for Auditor. There wasn't one for the chaplain.
Well, our big destination was Key West.
Okay.
Why he was here.
I don't know
I thought.
Go down there, that's a, you see a sign that says Key West.
I apologize.
It's
I
a
should have
long
cleared
ways
up
yet.
that stuff with you
It
before.
was like 80 miles, but again, slower traffic.
Yeah, did you stay at Key West or were you down here like,
We stayed in Florida, we stayed in Key West, and then we drove back and we stayed in Miami. So we were down there 10 days.
yeah, I like that area.
And if we did, see, Nancy and I, we do so many things,
After I talked with them.
history in Key West, like the Hemingway place, we
Yep.
toured that. I mean, I can go on and on.
I can damn near remember everything the way it looks there, because it's not that big, but.
It isn't, but it is.
Yeah, no, it's a nice place.
It's probably the size of Morrison County at least, But, then the bridge, the 7-mile bridge.
Is that the one under the water?
No, it goes over the water.
We went somewhere that's one under the water, quite a few miles. And the ships go over the top of you.
Well, that's.
But I don't know, that might not be there, but
So that wasn't there, but, I mean, everybody thinks bridge, it's real high. Well, it's just like going across the Platte River, Mississippi,
here it's like going from Pierce to Onamia, where the swamps are, there should be bridges.
But, then we did the, boat ride with the, what do they call them, go across the swamps,
Yep, I understand about.
the airboats, and so, I mean, we did all the touring things. But it was windy down there, so a lot of I wanted to go
But I also,
fishing, but
and I can have this.
it was too windy and everything canceled. But yeah, we enjoyed ourselves, but the frickin' people, they don't know how to drive in Miami, my God. And we talked to other people that were from
Kind of
other
the
areas.
reasoning to.
They don't know how to drive because most of them
This
don't have to
space
take
here will
behind
get
the wheel,
gobbled
they
up
just
by
get their license.
Oh, really?
A lot of Cubans down there, very friendly, they're friendly, but
The
they just
administration
don't
department would end up.
they drive on the opposite side, like if you're going down Highway 10, there's 2 lanes, they'll pass on the other side yet,
So-
This is like, jeez.
So we also have to be transparent to say, if that
He
was.
says a lot of them probably don't really, and then do they understand English enough to even know what the signs say?
Right, yeah, and they say they're, most of the ones that spoke English were from around here, but there was so many people from out of different countries, like Germany. We flew into,
Provide the services that they do.
but yeah, there's people from Germany, Poland, I mean, just are all tourists down there.
Well, it's a tourist place in the wintertime.
Yeah, we have options.
I got stuck at 399.
We may have the opportunity.
We were out in Laughlin, and gas in Laughlin, which was Nevada, was like $4, and it was $1 difference across the river.
Oh yeah, from Arizona to whatever to
I would say probably
Nevada, oh, I know.
whatever. We
I
have,
say
we
there's
will
really,
have options, we will have options.
and then, but there's really no beach in Key, from the Florida Keys, it's all islands, It's got these really things alongside, like
No county employees in there today.
I just like it down, I like getting away from the winter for a while,
we did, but
I think most of the board.
but it's still nice to get away from it.
I'm not much of a water guy, but, I got my wife, and she goes way out. I mean,
Yeah.
she can swim like a fish, but
We're going to New Jersey here on Thursday to Atlantic City. We'll be back Monday.
Yeah, no, but I say they got a boardwalk kind of on the beaches in Miami. Well, this is actually a boardwalk in Atlantic City. This is the one in Miami is like made of stone or something.
Yep.
But those boardwalks are nice, but the people, they use them boardwalks, bicyclists and walkers. Well, I'm glad, yeah. You gotta enjoy yourself. Just you and, just you and your wife are going.
Yeah.
Good morning.
We'll call the meeting back to order. And on the agenda now, we have the auditor's report. Good morning, Chelsea. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Chelsea.
First thing on the agenda today, I have a notice of intent to redistrict. So before we act to redistrict county commissioner district lines, the board must publish a notice 3 weeks before the meeting. So my proposed date would be Tuesday, March 22nd at 11 o'clock in the county boardroom. This would be 4 weeks from today's date. That would allow us the 3 weeks for publication, and then we can meet for a public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire, second by Commissioner Wilson to set this date on March 22nd. Further discussion? Any further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion prevails. Chelsea?
Next on the agenda, I have a request to approve the order form for election equipment. This order is to purchase 32 Omni ballots to replace our auto marks. Our auto marks are currently 16 years old and are in need of replacement. We'll be utilizing our Vega 3 grant funds along with our assigned reserve funds for elections to meet the 50% grant requirement. We applied for the Vega 3 grant funding, and I have reached out to the state in the last week a few times to request our total amount. And we have not yet heard our amount for Vega 3 grant funding. However, I do have to place this order by next month on the 7th in order to reserve these 32 machines. We have in our assigned fund balance for elections just over $279,000 earmarked for election equipment for this purpose of purchasing these machines.
Gentlemen, wishes of the board.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wincher and second by Commissioner Lemire to approve ordering this election equipment. Further discussion. Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chelsea, what happens if the board decides, we don't need these or we don't get them? Are these auto marks, are they outdated or are they not working? And I mean, this is a lot of money for these, and I hope we get some grant money, so if you could explain a little bit.
Great question. So last week I was at the Minnesota Association of County Officers conference, and I met with our current vendor who has the auto marks, which is ES&S is our vendor. And I asked them if we wanted to continue with auto marks, if we could upgrade just to a newer auto mark and switch out our old ones. And the answer was, no, we don't have any new machines. These machines are so outdated. I know ES&S, our current vendor, was looking to get approved a new machine for assisted voting, but that was not approved in legislation. And so we have the option to either remain with auto marks or replace with Omni ballots, which is with sea change. And they are approved with the state of Minnesota with these machines.
If I may,
Commissioner Wincher, go ahead.
if you could, maybe I'm getting this all wrong, are these auto marks those big bulky things that they carry to the townships that no one uses? I'm saying that kind of sarcastic because I don't see them get used too much.
So we're required to have these machines for assisted voting. and they do get used little. The machines, when we use our office and the auditor treasurer's office, we are programming these machines. We'll get the information from our vendor, and then we have to do the testing. And so we test and make sure that, you know, when we press the oval, the circle, that it aligns and it prints out correctly on the ballot. Sometimes now with these machines, since they are so old, when they move and get dinged, the alignment may go out of place.
Are they more streamlined than the old ones?
Very much so.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Gentlemen, this is a roll call. Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
The chairman votes aye. Commissioner Wilson? All those members voting aye, the motion prevails.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, I have a couple of gambling requests. The first one is for the Morrison County Scandia Valley First Response to hold 2 bingos, one on April 10th and one on November 20th of this year at the Scandia Valley Town Hall.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Lemire,
Second.
second by Commissioner Jelinski to approve these gambling license. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails.
Next request is for the Morrison County Bethany Lutheran Church to hold the bingo on March 27th of this year at the Bethany Lutheran Church in Foley.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wincher, a second by Commissioner Jelinski. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails.
Next request is for the Morrison County Minnesota Fishing Museum to hold pull tabs on April 22nd at Rice Creek Hunting and Recreation here in Little Falls.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire, second by Commissioner Wilson to approve. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails.
And last but not least on the agenda, I have a request to approve all the warrants.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to pay all the bills.
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski, for that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner Wincher, excuse me. Gentlemen, this is a roll call. Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
The chairman votes aye. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
And Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
The warrants are approved.
That is all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Chelsea.
Thank you,
Thank
Chelsea.
you, Chelsea.
Tony, you're still making it snow out there.
You know, I thought we were jinxing us. I bought a snow blower last week, so that should have been the end of snow. And here we are, I had to fire it up, so.
Yes.
But yes, the staff is working hard, they're putting in a ton of hours. I know they're getting real sick of the wind.
Yeah.
Can't control Mother Nature.
Tony, it's good to have you here this morning, and I know you got a Public Works report for us.
Yes, I have one item this morning. So I'm requesting the Morrison County Board to approve the 2022 Transportation Improvement Plan and direct the Public Works Department to move forward with bidding when appropriate.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire and a second by
Second.
Commissioner Wilson. Gentlemen, further discussion? Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a note that this is just not dumped on us the first day here. We've had a meeting about this at the Public Works, so we knew this was coming, so.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Wincher, and you are correct. We had a lengthy discussion at our Public Works meeting with Mr. Hennon. I think we're all very aware of these projects now and look forward to a good construction year here in Morrison County. And all we gotta do is be able to control the weather and get her hammered out, so.
Weather and bid prices, so, you
Yeah.
know, we're eager to start the lettings, and see where our bids are coming in at, and, try to stay within budget.
No. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Gentlemen, anything else? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. Tony, thank you so much.
Thank you, board.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Yep.
Get tended to them roads.
We're trying. So they'll be working a longer day today, and we'll be back out tomorrow.
Okay, I think the boys are out at what, 4 o'clock this morning?
4 this morning, I believe 4 yesterday morning. We were out Friday, a little bit Saturday, and then, you know, wind's supposed to lay down early tomorrow morning, so we'll be out tackling the drifts again. So.
Super. Thank you.
Let your workers know how much we appreciate their efforts, and these are a little more challenging days here now, but we appreciate everything that they're doing in their time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Gentlemen, we're at the administrator's report. Mr. LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gentlemen, this morning I have several items. The first is a meeting agenda procedure proposal here. And significantly, what this does is captures how we conduct business here with boards and adds the option of a consent agenda in paragraph 3. We discussed this during planning session, and I think we've addressed the concerns here. So with the board's approval, I would like to implement this with the department heads and staff and execute a consent agenda for a period of 90 days and then review it to see if it works for the board.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire. We have a second by Commissioner Jelinski to move forward with the consent agenda format for our county board meetings for a period of 90 days, which we then upon will review. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jelinski.
we have a new county administrator, and with that, the new county administrator has different ways of thoughts on doing things, and I, for one, appreciate that. I look forward to new challenges every day. This could be a new challenge or a very streamlined challenge, and with the caveat of, you know what, if in 90 days it stinks, in all respect to everybody, it smells, it doesn't work, or it's not working, we can revert back to exactly the way we were doing things today. But I appreciate the newness, the change, so it's good with me. Thank you. That's my comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski. And to that point, you know, we do know that there's a number of other counties who utilize consent agenda format in their board meetings and their board proceedings. You know, we look at this as an option to make things efficient, streamlined. Also, as we had said before, it does put responsibility on board members to make sure that we look at all that information on our time, that it won't come through and take time during the county board meeting. But we also recognize the fact that this is also, we're asking staff to prepare materials and information for us on a timely basis and with a little bit more advance. So this will be a tremendous team effort, in my estimation, through working with administration and the staff in the administration department here at the county. Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. Mr.
Okay.
LeBlanc.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Next item is the employee recognition guide. I'm seeking the board's approval of our county employee recognition guide. What this guide is it's a one-stop shop, if you will, for the recognition programs that already exist within the county. And if you read the guide, you'll see that I've referenced and sourced several locations of this information. And the areas that employee can receive recognition are listed here under the precedence category or paragraph: retirement award and recognition, annual award of excellence, quarterly award of excellence, longevity recognition, years of service, certificate of appreciation achievement, and one-year recognition. To be clear, none of these are new. how they're going to be exercised and implemented might be a bit different than in the past. The annual Award of Excellence will be presented quarterly as well as annually, similar to what other programs run, an Employee of the Quarter and an Employee of the Year. It would resemble that. Our Years of Service Award will be presented quarterly as well, instead of annually. But ultimately, these programs, with one exception, and that is the $25 print that we've been providing the retirees, there is no adjustment in monies or programs that the county already had in existence.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lemire. We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire, and we have a second by Commissioner Wincher to approve of this program. Further discussion? Further discussion? Further discussion? Mr. LeBlanc, thank you for your work and giving this board the opportunity to say thank you to the members of the organization for the work that they do. And I think that's one of the things that's most important for us, is making sure we recognize the efforts that go on here on a daily basis. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. Mr. LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gentlemen, the next item is our telecommuting policy for the county. What this does is it captures and standardizes our telecommuting procedures for the county. To this point, we do have employees that are telecommuting or teleworking. That is at the discretion of the department head. I have reviewed this policy with the department heads and shared and gleaned some best practices, not only from our internal department heads, but from other counties in the surrounding area, and came up with this policy. What this does is it standardizes our practices across the county for telecommuting. It obligates the support from IT to those departments. It also sets expectations from request and submission of the telework request of the employee through their supervisor to administration, all the way through the execution of it at their telecommute location. Again, some items in here captures expectations of attire and backdrop in the virtual meetings, as well as what we expect that telecommute site to have or not as far as distractors. But what COVID has allowed us to do is to exercise telecommuting. What this policy does is now we take the COVID out of it, and now we use this as a practice that allows us to compete with other employers out there that are hiring individuals from the onset to telecommute. At this point in time, we have no employees that are 100% telecommuting. Now, but that doesn't say that in the future some of these positions wouldn't become that. This policy outlines how those procedures are to occur.
Wishes of the board.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lemire. Motion by Commissioner Lemire. Second by Commissioner Jelinski to approve the telecommuting policy. Any further discussion? Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. Mr. LeBlanc.
Mr. Chair, so now we're going to transition into our weekly discussion with ARPA. As discussed during planning and as well discussed with our financial officer and our auditor treasurer, the recommendation of myself and the staff is to move the ARPA funds into the lost revenue as determined by the U.S. Department of Treasury. By doing that, it allows us, it cleans up the auditing of the ARPA funds. It's a single transaction that would move all of our ARPA money into lost revenue category. So the timeline constraints that were on us, for example, the December 31st of 24 committed and the December 31st of 26 spent, that would be fulfilled by moving it into lost revenue. Any organization that received less than $10 million is afforded this same opportunity, and in consulting with the other administrators across the state, most are doing just this. I haven't identified a single category that would limit our spending or ways that we could spend the ARPA money. This actually relieves some of the constraints on the auditing and reporting but still allows us to commit those funds to the county.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wincher, and a second by Commissioner Lemire.
Sure.
I'll ask for further discussion. Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Matt, and again, I should know what this ARPA funds, why we're doing this, but if you could explain, that means that we still can use it for whatever reason we want to, but as you said, our time limit, we could wait 10 years to spend this money. Am I correct on that?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. Mr. LeBlanc.
Okay, Mr. Chair, so our first action then, to clean up things here, is previously I'd asked that the Chief Financial Officer for the county be paid using ARPA funds. Well, effective now, we have no ARPA money, so I'm asking the board to pay this individual through lost revenue.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wilson. Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. The second by Commissioner Jelinski to approve this expenditure. This will be a roll call vote. Further discussion? Further discussion?
Yes. Mr.
Commissioner
Chair.
Lemire, thank you.
How are we doing with finding a chief financial officer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to report this morning, we have 6 applicants, and that window closed today, and now we will begin the process to bring them forward for interviews and continue the hiring process.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Lemire and Mr. LeBlanc. Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
The chairman votes aye. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
All voting aye, the motion prevails.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Next item, John, if you want to come up. We're going to resume the discussion on the historical courthouse, Mr. Chair, as the board wishes. Last week at planning session, questions came up of what would be included in the renovation and proposals. What I'm bringing forward to you today significantly is a couple pieces of information. One is a further breakdown of the projects that would occur with the renovation of the historic courthouse, as well as information on the services provided of our tenants of the historical courthouse. One of the questions that we had, or the board had last week, was what is the 10-year, 20-year plan for the historic courthouse? Where do we see that building at? At this point, and not to lose any of our current services being provided, I see the historic courthouse as a place that our partners are housed, and specifically Oasis, Hands of Hope, Kinship, Minnesota Guardian Ad Litem program, as well as Independent Lifestyles. They are the ones currently there. There is some room for additional partners to relocate to that location if it would be more in better condition, more hospitable, a better place to work, as well as it allows a location for county overflow. If we have an internal renovation project, or we have some displaced employees, or if health and or one of our departments would grow, it affords that opportunity. So that's where I would see it in 10 to 20 years, is to maintain that strong relationship with those partners that we have, as well as a reserve space, if you will, for our county employees. Mr. Chair, if I may highlight some of the contributions of those partners.
And if you're going to go through that, I'd like to invite, we have representation from 3 of those organizations, and I'd like to invite them to come and sit up here in the front with John up here, if you're comfortable with that. If the board would have dialogue that they would like to engage with you with this presentation, that you're here at the microphones. just in case.
And Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
LeBlanc, go ahead.
before I get too far in front of myself here, what is in your board packet today? You'd see 3 resolutions. The first is a $4 million resolution, the second is a 2.1, and the third is a 1.8, I believe. And those all correspond to the projects that could be underway in the historic courthouse. None of these resolutions are committing those funds, they're just committing the county to move forward in the planning and negotiations for those projects. So in front of us today, Oasis Rose is here. So they are a nonprofit organization. In 2021, they had over 1,600 bed nights provided to residents of Morrison County. Those are displaced personnel. So that's over 4.5 years of housing provided in 1 year's time. They also provided services to 127 households. Hands of Hope just marked the 30-year anniversary this year. They have served over 539 domestic violence victims, 94 sexual assault victims, 156 child abuse, and 495 victims of general crime. They offer 24-hour service and access due to nearly 4,000 volunteer hours associated with their organization. Kinship, as we know, is committed to matching adults with youth looking for mentorship. And in 2021, they had over 65 youth and 50 adults hosting 14 group activities. In the Minnesota Guardian Ad Litem, the program, they advocated for 75 children and represented them during juvenile and family courts. And Independent Lifestyles, our newest tenant, provides a center for independent living, primarily for those that are disabled, and they assist them in outreach. So gentlemen, Mr. Chair, so the first resolution, we talked about it last week in planning, and what this does is it puts the historic courthouse within ADA compliance, as well as replaces the windows and makes it a more secure and preserved structure from the elements. John, anything else that you want to highlight?
Nope, that pretty much covers it, unless you got questions.
Well, gentlemen, well, before we go to comments, Aaron and ladies, thank you for being here this morning and for your work in partnering with Morrison County and providing those services to the people of the county here. Gentlemen, comments, discussion. Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, I would ask any of you three, what would happen today if you were displaced? If your agency was no longer here, period, you got your walking papers today, bye-bye. What happens? If you,
Scramble to find somewhere else to be.
well, that's what I'm looking for, is comment, tell me, what's gonna happen?
We would still, exist as much as we could, but we would be looking for another place to be, and I feel like that's a challenge in Little Falls. We want to be close to the courthouse because we provide services in connection with county attorney's office and courts a lot. But yeah, that would be a challenge.
Now, I kind of know the answer to the question, but we're talking anyway, we're just having conversation. And it doesn't matter what the dollar value is, for the sake of argument. Do you feel comfortable that you would be able to find a place close to the government center, in your case, Steph? The rent would be comparable and would be comfortable in distance?
I don't think it would be. I mean, we would have to downsize space, of course, but we have several staff. And I think, dollar-wise, I think we would never find the square footage amount that we get through the county.
Okay.
And we've actually looked at other space over the past, just because there are certain things that aren't ideal, but the biggest thing for us is the location of being in the government center, and that just streamlines our services so nicely. So I think we could, it would be a challenge. We'd have to scramble to find new space. We would likely be paying more, and then we wouldn't have that just seamless service that we have now, working with Morrison County.
Thank you.
Yeah, for Kinship's perspective, we have 2 office spaces and then a large storage room in the basement. And so we have a lot of items that work with our program, and so that would be a challenge, just space-wise. But we also are probably the biggest user of the courtroom upstairs for our board meetings, but then we also have activities that we host in that space. So to find a building that we could utilize for group activities, that would be a challenge. Not that we do everything that Kinship hosts in that room, but like just before Christmas, we had an event and we were upstairs and downstairs. We used the whole courtroom because we were trying to have, we were trying to just deal with a little bit of physical space between people. At that time, COVID was, pretty strong in the community. And so we just thought, well, let's spread it out. Well, we needed that kind of space to do that. And so we were all over the historic courthouse. And so that'd be a real challenge. And for us, we have a $92,000 budget, I think, for this year. And so the rent that we pay is a tremendous blessing to that we pay to the county. And the gift that we get in the difference between that and market value, it really is a game changer for us to be able to be housed there. So it would be a real challenge. I don't know that we could find a comparable place, or I almost feel like we'd be where the Boys and Girls Club were at when they were hopping around from place to place to find what could work for them, and finally they found it. That would be a kind of adventure that we would have to start down.
And thank you. And I kind of anticipated that answer. And as the administrator has said over and over and over, you are our partners. You're partners with the county. Extremely important partners with the county. So that's my comment for right now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Jelinski, and that kind of leads me to ask the question. Then, I think we should look at both sides of the coin here. So, since we have you here, what challenges would you say you encounter with being in the location that you're in here too, and in being in the historic courthouse? If you'd like to comment on that to us?
I think accessibility is like the biggest challenge we see. I don't know, accessibility is huge.
Can you expound on that? Do you mean parking, or do you mean getting into the building, or handicap accessibility, or all of the above?
Probably the handicap accessibility. The second floor is completely not accessible to anyone that has mobility challenges. So we actually were, when I started on the second floor, but we had an individual that fell down the stairs trying to get up to us. So we moved down to the main level. So the main level is somewhat accessible. There's the long ramp, which can be difficult for folks to get up and down. There's some dips in it that, can get icy. The bathroom on the main level is not handicap accessible. So those are things that are challenges, I would say, for folks, especially with mobility challenges.
And I think temperature control too. We have very hot summers and very cold winters. And I was telling Mr. Jelinski this morning, this is the first time ever, this morning I had snow in my office. So we're missing windows, and so snow falls in between, and actually snow came through one of the cracks over the weekend. So they're not very efficient.
No.
For us, I've been with Kinship for 22 years. So in that time frame, I've had, and we're a youth mentoring program. I get we're different perhaps than the demographic that they serve, but I've had one individual that wanted to volunteer that was in a wheelchair. That being on the second floor was an issue, but we had access to the room right by Hands of Hope downstairs to utilize, and we know that that's always available. We had one other person that had a surgery and was on crutches, and so we made arrangements to meet downstairs. In 22 years, that's been the challenges, that's it. And so I don't mean to be dismissive of the concerns that they have, but that's what I've experienced in my time that I've been there. The hot and cold, the heat is fine. Maintenance has said, feel free to turn the heat up. They want us to be comfortable, and that doesn't seem to be a problem. In the summertime, humidity is a real concern, and so I think I'm the last one that, we have new air conditioners, I think 2 years ago, that I put in the window units. And so I know new windows are one of the options that you're considering. How will that affect the humidity in there? Because for us, if it gets too humid, the copier doesn't want to work. It leads to other issues in the room. And so if there's new windows, how will air conditioners work? I assume they're probably not going to want window air conditioners and brand new windows. Then what, I know these folks downstairs use the stands air conditioner units. Just because central air, there's no ducting in our office, and there's probably no ducting in any of their offices for the heat. It's all radiant heat. And so, if that's an option to do new windows, what is the plan as far as how to support the tenants with air conditioning in the summertime? I mean, I'm not suggesting to redo the whole ducting for the whole building, but, you know, if you don't want window air conditionings, then, you know, will we need to look to make sure that we've got what we need to make that happen? You know, and I mean, they're 3 years old, it's not a big deal for us to invest in new air conditioners, but, you know, we just need to know what we need to look at moving ahead.
Thank you. Further discussion. Commissioner Lemire?
This is gonna be towards John. If we go ahead with the elevator installation, do we have to wait till the engineer looks at the building to determine the location of that? And if so, if you do know where they're at, is it gonna affect any of these individuals right here with the location?
On the windows,
Elevator.
elevator,
location of the elevator.
location will affect, kinship, not so much the elevator, but the bathrooms will. And as a whole.
Is there options for them then, if we move forward with that?
Yeah, there's other areas in there. It all depends on how the architect looks at it and draws it up, but that was the two areas that would be impacted.
Okay.
Both spaces for me, or just?
No, just one.
Further discussion. Commissioner Wincher?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, the organizations, we all know you guys do a tremendous amount of work for the county and other residents. And again, that's very important to us and myself. It's not like we're kicking them to the curb if we decide to not do anything, you know, I want to make sure people know that if we decide, okay, we're only going to go with 1, 2, or 3 or nothing, you're here to stay, hopefully for a long, long time. We also have options, Mr. Chair, if I don't know where this is a lot of question marks here. We have other residents here that may want to sell their buildings close by. So again, those are things that we're going to have to look at. Over the past years, and John can confirm this, is that, you know, we have a building fund and there's minimal dollars in there, probably a couple $100,000, but this is always something that comes to us and says, what are we going to do with that old courthouse? The handicap accessible, there's a lot of things. Over I was gone here for, I was out of state, and I had a couple phone calls, believe it or not, about this. You know, what are we going to do with the courthouse? And they want us to kind of hold back and take a breath what we're going to do here. These are great numbers here, but they're not confirmed numbers until, like I say, we need an engineer probably to come in here and do this here. I just have if we wouldn't have this money, where would we be going? You know what I'm saying? If this money wouldn't be there, would we be just waiting? And that's the question, John. What happens if we just don't do nothing? And then also, I have a little concern about there's grant money available. And again, you talk about matches or whatever. Do we spend the money and then hopefully we get a grant? Or I would also like to see what grants that we could get to offset this. So I was brought up about the elevator. Maybe there's something out there that they can put $500,000 in it. I know from before we did the renovation, it was like $1.5 million just to put an elevator in for that. You know, so it's going to be expensive, but we as the board here, we have this old courthouse and we have to do something with it, you know. So I guess it's more, I'm not going to vote for any of these today. I would be against that because, again, I just need more information. It's been brought to our attention that there's a home here coming up for sale. Maybe they can go in there. Again, but I say, if we don't do nothing, John, what's the lifespan? You know, is it going to last a year from now, or is it going to be another 50, 100 years? I know the building's 100 years old at least.
On the Windows end of it, there are at time that we kick that can down the road long enough that we got some of them that we makeshift them back together with plexiglass. They come apart last year, so that they're due.
So have you been kind of Band-Aiding them yourself, or have you hired somebody to come in and say, hey, we need this here? You know what I'm saying? You got a jack of all trades, John, I understand that.
We've been just putting a Band-Aid on them, getting
Okay.
them by, and, you know, we've been talking about windows since the project started, so since 15.
I don't have any, just more comments and questions, you know, I guess that I have at this time, so.
Well, and gentlemen, that's why we're here, to have discussion about this issue. You know, further comments? Commissioner Lemire?
I mean, we have two options. We have the responsibility of taking care of this building. It was made by other commissioners that we would turn that historic courthouse into a historical place, and I believe it's our responsibility to maintain it. And I think these dollars that we're receiving from ARPA, I think that's a blessing for our county to use that money on this historical courthouse. I am willing to move forward with both 1 and 2, this first resolution that is before us. We heard from 2 individuals that accessibility is very important. We heard from Commissioner Jelinski how important that is to him. And the windows, we don't expect our tenants to have snow in their rooms when they come to work in the morning. And it'll also help with the heating, and it'll also help with the cooling, as was mentioned also. So I personally am in favor of this first resolution to move forward. That isn't saying you're gonna spend that, but it means you're gonna move forward towards them too. So I personally am for the first resolution, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. LeBlanc, thank you.
And two follow-up points. One to Commissioner Wincher from last week. With the grant money, we discussed this last week at planning, and one of the concerns was that if we receive grant money, there may be additional costs that outpace the grant money. But that won't preclude us from exploring that to further refine that. And then it kind of goes to Commissioner Lemire's point. Today, I was attempting to get scope on this project, on how big of an effort do we want to go after. We're not committing the $4 million, we're committing to negotiating to head down that path. And so, again, we won't know the type of grant money that we're going to receive. We'd be predicting the future. What I can pass on is from the State Historical Office. They said we are more likely to receive $200,000 to $300,000 grant annually than a one-for-one match in the millions. That was some information I did get back last week. So what I was hoping to get today was how big of a effort do we want to put out the historical courthouse?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jelinski.
I will say one more time, this is our responsibility, the county board's responsibility. I hope I never hear again that someone in a wheelchair with crutches or with a mobile issue was not able to utilize a portion of the government center which we are responsible for. The year is 2022. It's not 18 whatever it was when that building was built. Times have changed. This county is destined to receive $6.5 million from the federal government. That, although it's tax money, it is not Morrison County levy money. The year is going to come next year, the year after that, whatever. This money is not going to be there. Any work that's going to be done on that facility is going to be, and forgive me, maybe I'm out of line and maybe I'm wrong, is going to be levy money. I certainly cannot expect, or should anyone, expect that the federal government is going to all of a sudden on a routine basis send Morrison County a blank check to say, hey, we're going to give you some more money here and do with it what you want to. I don't see that as happening. I agree with Commissioner Lemire when he says, you know what, perhaps this is a blessing in disguise. I say that free money, if you will, is not free. However, free money, as it has been presented to Morrison County, is here. We can spend it to do what we should do, because it's our responsibility, Or we can do other things with it. But I do not want to see another person ever come before this board and say, well, we had some challenges with somebody entering that facility. That should just never, ever happen again. Probably for right now, Mr. Chair, that's all I've got.
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski, for your passion on this issue. The gentleman, Commissioner Wilson, you have comments?
I do. I suppose one of the questions that I should ask, and I don't know if I agree with it or disagree with it, should the courthouse be torn down and we not invest anything in it? I don't know the answer to that question. It's, we're talking, no matter what we're talking here, once we start spending money, we're talking $10 million. That's what the estimates are that we have here. And I'm not saying that we should or we shouldn't, but I think it's something that we should talk about. Our forefathers put it there. I'd hate to tear it down, but when does it quit with it? Maybe it doesn't. Like I says, but I think it's a question that should be asked, and I'm okay if we all say no. But I think it's responsible to ask that question. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. I think that's, I agree with you. I think that is a question that also has to be asked is there a defined useful life for this structure? That, and having that discussion does not mean that an individual does not see historical value in that. I think we talked at the planning session a week ago about if we're going to invest money into these projects within that structure, we should have a discussion about what is the utilization of that structure by the county, by our partners, by others going forward. And I think that's we did have some discussion about that, and I thought that was timely and important to have. And in my mind, we're going to continue to have discussions about utilization of these facilities that are a part of our campus here at Morrison County. I just want to make sure that everyone understands and that we're very transparent about what we're talking about here this morning. The sheet that John handed to us this morning with these numbers is these are rough estimates.
Correct.
What Mr. LeBlanc is asking us wondering if we have interest in moving forward on would be to engage in negotiations with Vetter Johnson Architects to basically get a finer scope line about costs to do these phases of this project. If this board would make the decision that that's the direction that we're going to go. Would that be a fair assessment of where we're at with this right now and the numbers that we have in front of us? Mr. LeBlanc or John?
That's correct, Mr. Chair, and to not come back week after week, if I can understand the board's wishes on the historical courthouse, if we want to try to further refine phases 1 and 2, or if you say NDAA, ADA, disabilities, accommodations, and window replacement, then that's what we'll do, and we'll come back with better information, more refined numbers back to the board before a decision is made to commit.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. John, Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. And again, to follow, am I, the passionate about? I'm passionate about the ADA, but also I'm more passionate about what people have talked to me about, and that's about the mental health of this county. And we That was the number one thing that I believe when we did that survey was mental health. Well, we're not doing a damn thing with that. We're just sitting here because I think this is easy, the courthouse, well, it's physical, we can touch that. And I say, mental health, we got so damn much suicide in this county because of all these things, and yet we want to spend $5 million. Give me something that shows me what can we do with mental health. Maybe we can put something in this courthouse to handle that. I just think we're moving in the wrong direction at this point. We got problems in schools with young children. I just can't see why we're putting all our eggs in this basket for this courthouse, and they're surviving. Now, maybe we can do the windows or whatever, again, we have kinships there on the top floor. I don't know if you've ever been in any of these historic buildings here in Little Falls, they have no handicap whatsoever. I mean, you can go up this, so it's very important, but we're just missing the boat, in my opinion, and I have no more to say.
Commissioner Wincher, thank you, and thank you for your passion this morning about the issue of mental health within the county and within the residents of the county. And I'll just say that, gentlemen, that going back to what the question being asked here is whether or not the county board would support the idea of entering into an agreement with an architectural company to give us numbers to say it will cost X amount to do phases 1 and 2, which are in front of us on the sheet with rough numbers, to then give us the opportunity to make a decision in the future on whether or not we want to utilize some of these funds to address that historic courthouse. And I will also kind of go out on a limb here and say that all other projects that we have identified or issues that we have identified within the county can still be on the table. And in respect to Commissioner Wincher, I feel that we should have discussion about issues like the mental health issue within the county or other issue areas that are important to members of the board. And I'm grateful to be here this morning to witness some of the passion by yourself and Commissioner Jelinski and Commissioner Wilson and Lemire about these issues. And this kind of dialogue is good. This is where we need to be. That all being said, as I said before, if there is the appetite to go forward with this contract with Vetter Johnson, it does not eliminate the opportunity to look at any of these other issue areas. So the question at hand here from Mr. LeBlanc is, would there be the desire by this board to go forward?
If I may, Mr. Chair, do we have any idea what the engineering cost would be to give us a more exact dollar amount?
We'd have to enter into a contract with them.
So is it gonna be $10 or $10 million? I'm just exaggerating.
It's a percentage depending on what he has to do.
Because again, I just want to make sure that if my mind can be changed a little bit here, but if we come back and we spend, let's say, $50,000 to do engineering work, and then I'll hear the board, well, we just spent $50,000, let's keep moving on. That I don't want to hear. I want to, if we can get an exact dollar amount, maybe I'd say, okay, it's going to cost $3 million to do this, so we're going to spend $50,000 just to do the engineering. I just want to make sure that we're spending the money wisely.
And I believe, Randy, the right way to do that is to enter into a negotiation with him and then bring it back for your guys' approval before we have them do any work.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lemire.
today, do you want to go ahead with the historical courthouse? Do you want to spend 4 million, or do you not? I mean, when we had our discussions earlier, we were all like, yeah, we should probably take care of that building. This would be a good opportunity for us to take care of the building. And that's why Mr. LeBlanc brought this forward to us today. So it's a simple question. It really is simple. Do you want to fix the historical courthouse, or do you not want to fix the historical courthouse? If so, we got to move forward.
Mr. Chair?
So John can move forward, getting engineered, so we can continue with the process. If you don't want it, then you just gotta vote no. But if you do want it, this is the opportunity for us to say, yeah, let's continue moving forward. And if you're not, then you gotta determine, do you wanna tear it down when it falls apart, when all the moisture gets in between the bricks and busts out? Or do you wanna spend levy dollars and bond for it and can spend a considerable amount more money to fix it?
And I appreciate what Commissioner Lemire is stating, and that's where we're saying, is it 4 million? Maybe we can get by just fixing the windows for now, and that's where I have that thing, is because the fact that, and again, Commissioner Lemire, and I appreciate that, he's saying either you go for the 4 million or close to it, or let's not spend any money now. It's not like I wanna let it tear down. Again, maybe there's things that we can do to find other options, and I say, so if that's the Commissioner Lemire's way, I will vote against this here.
So, once again, I feel the need here to clarify again.
You don't have to read this again, because we understand what we're voting on here. It's to move forward, to start the process. If we get the process started, the engineer has to come here, give us a bid, and at that time, you determine whether or not you want to move forward. But if you don't want to spend 4 million right off the bat, it doesn't pay to move forward with it. I think we should spend the 4 million or move forward on it.
Commissioner Wilson, excuse me, Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Jelinski, I apologize. You had a comment to make?
Actually, I have more than a comment. I'm kind of tired of kicking the can, and I'm going to make the motion.
We got a motion, don't we?
We don't have a motion.
Oh, okay.
No, we don't have a motion.
I have a motion on the table that's going to enlist Vetter Johnson Architects to go to the next step. That's what we're looking for, right?
As I read this, we would be entering into a contract with Vetter Johnson to come back to us with numbers that it would take to address phases 1 and 2 of this project, which are listed in front of us.
And that's my motion.
Yes, thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Jelinski, and there is a second by Commissioner Lemire. Now,
I got a question.
further discussion, Commissioner Wilson.
Okay, the way you made that motion, I just want to make sure I understand. Our first of all, we were talking about us setting aside $4 million. But that's not what this motion is. And I would agree with that without knowing what it's really going to cost us getting down to a point, it's hard to make a real logical decision on what this is. So I would approve that myself, but we're not talking about the $4 million now. Now we're talking about hiring somebody to tell us what the numbers are.
And thank you, Commissioner Wilson, because that is how I interpret this. We are not committing to doing those first 2 phases. We're committing this morning with this motion to engage in an architect to tell us how much it would cost to do those first 2 sections of this project. That could cost up to $4 million. Commissioner Lemire.
But to be fair to Mike's concerns, we must consider that $4 million, even though we're not dedicating it specifically for that purpose. We can't, if we want to use the ARPA funds, we can't dig into the first $4 million until we get them drawings and get the total dollar amount, just to be fair.
I don't understand that.
We're not committing $4 million, but
Correct.
moving forward, you should consider not spending the $4 million until you determine if you want to spend it or not.
Right.
on the building.
But when you said we can't touch ARPA funds, no, we
No,
can, we can
no,
do
I didn't mean
what-
that.
Okay, we can do whatever. All we're really doing here is, we're setting aside $4 million. That was the first squeeze. The second thing is, we're really voting here on doing this building. And or the architect. So, and I would say, I agree with you, that by doing that, I wouldn't dedicate none of that $4 million
There you go. I just
until,
wanted to be clear
until
with you.
we know what the cost is.
And I agree with you, Commissioner Wilson. That is how I read this and how I understand the motion from Commissioner Jelinski. We're just entering into an agreement to find out what will it cost us to do this. In our mind, we've had this discussion multiple times now about, we figure these first two phases of this project could take about $4 million. And we all are in agreement that if we are going to go forward with that project, that we would use that ARPA money that was given to us that is now in lost revenue fund. Before I ask for any further discussion on this, I want to make sure that Mr. LeBlanc, how this board is reading this, is how you understand that, and the motion that's on the table, and that suits with what you're trying to achieve here this morning with John.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I understand, and we will move forward with the negotiations, a contract to take on a $4 million renovation project of the historical courthouse without committing any monies to the project, but to take the next step in the formal process.
Is there further discussion?
I'm gonna say one last thing.
Commissioner Wincher.
You'd like follow up Commissioner Lemire. Basically, he said you're voting to either do it or you're not doing it, even though we have to wait to see the exact funds. So, in this case, it looks like we want to spend $4 million. If it comes back from the engineer, if it comes in $4 million or less, I'm assuming that the commissioners that will vote for this are gonna vote for the $4 million.
Thank you, Commissioner Wincher. I'll just say to everyone on the board, you will have an opportunity to vote up or down whether or not you want to spend $4 million to renovate or spend any money to renovate the historic courthouse. But the vote that we are taking this morning will allow us to get more specific numbers on what it would cost to engage in that activity. Further discussion. Commissioner Wilson.
Just to clarify, we also have a kind of $2.5 million yet out of the ARPA money that if projects come up along the way that we want to do right now, we could do some of them if anything came, because we're only putting aside $4 million on this till we know the numbers. Am I correct on that? If somebody would come next week or in 2 weeks and there's a major project that we want to fund, we got the money to fund that from the ARPA money.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. LeBlanc.
Just to split hairs for Commissioner Wilson, we've only received half of the 6.5. We expect to receive the other half in June or July of this year. But in essence, what you've just described is accurate, that there's still 2.5 available if we set aside 4 for this project. But technically today, we have 3.23 in the bank.
And Commissioner Wilson, and to my respect for Commissioner Wincher and issues that he has raised or issues that you have raised in conversation with the rest of the board that are important to you, there'll be a waiting period for us now to receive information back from Vetter Johnson. This isn't going to come to us, tomorrow or next week. In that interim, and I've talked about this before, we're going to have time that allows us to have discussion about other issues of importance to whether it's each of us as board members or to this board as a whole or to the residents of Morrison County. that this board will have to decide on how they want to address those things. All of this money can be in play on those things. We will still have that opportunity to address those issues going forward. But it's good to have that conversation alongside this issue with the historic courthouse today to remind us that there are other things out there that are happening too. We have a further discussion. Commissioner Jelinski, you had something else you wanted to add?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's be very clear. What we're doing today in the motion is saying to Vetter Johnson, we want you to give us a price here. And we have 4 million marked down here, without a doubt. The fact of life is, it might be 5.5 million, or 7 million, or 10 million to do what we're talking here. We don't know. The $4 million is there in black and white. But what we're really looking for at the end of the day is, Vetter Johnson, come on, tell us what the price is gonna be. That's what we're looking for in this motion. And we do have 4 million marked down here, I got that. Could have 2 million, doesn't make any difference, because we don't know the answer to the question. Right, John?
Correct.
You don't have that. If you did, we could change the whole motion
Right.
and start, maybe we could start construction tomorrow. I don't know that, but so, that's my take on it. anyway.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski. Commissioner Wilson.
and the only thing that you're really saying here, though, is they're gonna give us another estimate, because they're not gonna give us a price, because that takes drawings, that takes everything, and that takes commitments from people that are doing the work. So that is not what we're asking for. We're asking to get close to what they think it's gonna cost. Correct?
We're asking to enter into a contract to perform renovations of the historical courthouse up to 4 million.
Correct, and that would be schematic designs, and it'd have to go through SHPO. That's the only way you're gonna find out what it's gonna cost you. And then it'd get kicked over to Integrity, they would put a number to it, just like this.
But an estimate, more or less.
An estimate,
Because
correct.
it's not going out to people to do the job. They're not gonna give you a bid till we decide to do the job.
Correct, it'll be an estimate, but it'll be a more refined
I understand,
estimate,
yep.
because it's got schematic designs.
Totally
to it.
understand, but that's a long ways before it gets to that point.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Further discussion? Further discussion? Gentlemen, we have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
The motion prevails.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you
Thank you, guys.
for coming.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
With that motion and approval, I can move past into committee reports and upcoming schedule.
Gentlemen, would you like to do your schedules?
Oh, we'd love to.
For February 27th through March 12th.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Thank you,
please
Mr. Chair.
lead off today.
On
What were
the
the days again?
27th
February 27th.
through the 12th.
Through the March 12th.
Thank you.
On February 27th at 8:30 in the morning at the VFW in Little Falls, the Little Falls FFA is having a pancake breakfast. On the 28th of February at 10 o'clock in the morning, there's a Tri-County Extension meeting in St. Cloud. I will not be able to attend that meeting. I've got a prior commitment. At 6 o'clock, that's,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're fine. Go
Commissioner Jelinski, location of the Tri-County Extension meeting.
it's in St. Cloud, but I can't
It's
remember.
at the Stearns County History
His
Museum.
museum, it's over by the old, or Costco's or not there, yeah, I think.
Kind of by the Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
Stearns County History Museum.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
No, I didn't have the location.
Yeah, continued.
At 6 o'clock that same evening, there's a Good Neighbors EMS meeting at St. Gabriel's Hospital. On March 1st, at 8:30 in the morning, there's a planning meeting here at the Government Center. At 6 o'clock that same evening, there would have been a Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting, but that has been canceled. On the 2nd of March, at 11 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Executive Committee, Emergency Services Board Executive Committee meeting. That is virtual. That is also the first day of the AMC Legislative Conference, which is held at the Intercontinental Hotel in St. Paul. On the 3rd of February, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a State Emergency Communications Board Legislative Committee meeting, and that is the second day of the AMC Legislative Conference, which is held in St. Paul. On the 4th of March at 8:30 in the morning, we've got TSWAC at the landfill, and at 1 o'clock that same afternoon, we have egg zoning here at the Government Center. On the 7th of March, nobody cares about my eye appointment.
We care.
On the 8th of March at 9 o'clock in the morning, we have a county board meeting here at the Government Center. On the 9th of March at 8:30, there's a department head meeting here at the Government Center. On the 10th of March at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Next Generation 911 meeting, which is
Is that a virtual Teams
virtual.
meeting?
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much. Sorry about that. On the 11th at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board RAC meeting, which is also virtual. And Mr. Chair, as of right now, that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski. Commissioner Wilson.
All I have is, on the 10th, I've got CMCOA Council of Aging at 10 o'clock, and that's virtual.
Okay.
That's all I have to add to.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Lamar.
On February 28th, 9 o'clock, HRA. And did anybody say the Egg Zoning District discussion 3? Okay.
Meeting 3, yep.
That's all I got different.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wincher.
The only thing I have to add is on the Thursday, the 3rd, I have an AMC University Extension meeting, and that's gonna be down at Intercontinental Hotel, but it's also gonna be a Zoom available too, so that's at 8 o'clock in the morning. Otherwise, I'm good to go.
Thank you.
I have nothing more to add.
Wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Chair, prior to adjournment, request the board move into a closed session in accordance with Minnesota State Statute in Chapter 13, D05, and the subject, as I'm required to announce, is cybersecurity, specifically addressing the results of our cyber resiliency review.
And we will do that, Mr. LeBlanc. And so, gentlemen, at this time, we'll take a break till let's say 10:50, a 7-minute break.
Mr. Chair, I think we need a motion for that to move to a closed session.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. LeBlanc. Is there, so it's a motion by Commissioner Wilson, a second by Commissioner Wincher to move to closed session. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. We will resume in closed session at 10:50.